Hey, welcome back, my friend. My name is Danny Dumas, and this is the Earn Your Child podcast. I'm going to tell you a story about going fishing. There once was a businessman, CEO of a very large company under a lot of stress. He started having chest pain, indigestion, couldn't sleep, went to the doctor. The doctor said, "You don't really have anything wrong with you. You're just really stressed out. You need to take a vacation." So the businessman, he grabs his family. They fly to a tropical location. And being a typical businessman, he can't sleep. He is nervous. He's worried that something bad's going to happen. He's constantly checking his phone. So he decides he's going to leave his phone and go for a walk on the beach. So he gets up and watches the sun rise. He goes for a long walk, hour and a half, 2 hours. And on his way back, he sees a local fisherman. The fisherman has got a couple fish, 2 or 3 fish. He's currently reeling up a fish. So he walks over and watches him land this fish. And he's like, "Oh, that's awesome. You caught 4 fish today." He's like, that's awesome. He's like, "Yeah, I think I'm done." He goes, "You're done?" He's like, "Yeah." And the fisherman said, "Yeah, I think we're having a party tonight. Some friends are going to come over. We're going to play games. We're going to listen to some music, and we're going to watch the sunset." And the businessman says, "Well, that sounds awesome." He's like, "But why don't you just stay for a little bit longer and you could catch 4 more fish?" And the fisherman said, "Well, if I caught 4 more fish, what would I do with them? I don't have a need for that." He's like, "Well, you would sell them." He's like, "Okay, if I sold them, what would I do?" He's like, well, you could buy another fishing rod. And then every morning when you get up, you would have 2 fishing rods in the water and you'd catch double the amount of fish. And he said, "Oh, that's interesting. What would I do if I caught double the amount of fish?" He's like, "Well, you'd sell them, obviously. And then you could buy a boat. If you bought a boat, you can go deeper waters and catch bigger fish." He's like, "Okay, if I caught more bigger fish in deeper water, what would I do?" He's like, "Well, you'd buy more boats." He's like, "But how would I sail more boats?" He's like, "Well, obviously you'd hire people. And when you go hire people, you wouldn't even have to go out, but you'd probably start having to manage them. And as you're catching these fish, you might decide, hey, this island's too small for me. So you'd move to a bigger island and you'd start catching more fish." He's like, "Well, if I catch more fish, what would that get me?" He's like, "Well, you'd probably have to start an operating facility where you process the fish and then package the fish. Then you could send them out, throughout the world and people start buying your fish." He's like, "Okay. And what would that get me?" He's like, "Well, if you made your company really valuable, you could put it on the stock exchange and do an IPO and you could make millions of dollars selling your company after you've done this IPO." He's like, "Oh, that'd be amazing. And if I had millions of dollars, what would I do?" He's like, "Well, you would live the life of luxury. You could sit on the beach and, have a party with your friends, listen to music, eat good food and watch the sunset." And the fisherman said, "Okay, I'll take that into advisement," and walked away. And the businessman really had no idea what he had just said, because he was looking through the world of business, of doing more, of achieving more, of constantly trying to get success and miss what success was. I think a lot of times as guys, sometimes we can miss what success truly is. We have this desire for more. We have this desire to make a plan, and the plan relies on things that are happening in the future. And we're constantly pushing towards that plan of in the future, when I finally, and sometimes we miss the important things that are happening right now. I was listening to a podcast and a guy, Derek Coburn, he wrote a book called Let's Retire Retirement. And it's been on my mind a lot because I am close to retirement age. I started firefighting when I was 20. I'm now 45. Typically, after 25 years of service, you can retire. And life happened to me. I had to basically start over after about my 12-year mark. And so I am not retiring this year. But I was thinking about what my life would look like if in the next couple months I would be never working again as a firefighter. And I realized that goal, that desire, that dream was based on a young man's faulty vision on what the world really is, like what it means to be successful, what it means to be useful. And I don't think now, as I'm gotten older and wiser, that I'm ever meant to truly retire. I think us as men, us as leaders, fathers, husbands, that we need to have a purpose. I know guys that have retired young and they failed in the sense that they had nothing to live for. They got into drinking, they got into some really bad mental places, and I think because they didn't have a purpose. And so I'm going to encourage you to look at retirement not so much as like the end of the hard part of your life, but to look at how could I take my life and make all of it useful and not push it towards the, okay, like, oh, I'm going to grind. I'm going to grind until I'm 65, 67 or 62, and then I'll start living a good life. I don't want that for you. Last Saturday I was working and we did CPR on a guy who was 48 years old. He was in his basement working out. Something happened and he died. I had to tell his wife, ma'am, I'm sorry for your loss, but your husband has died at 48 years old. I hope that man lived a great life. I hope he did everything he ever wanted to do. But a lot of us are putting off everything we've always wanted to do until this magical moment when we no longer have to work, because we see work as this terrible place to be. And maybe your job is awful. And I'm not asking you to stay at an awful job, but I am asking you to think about retirement and think about finishing up your life in a different way. And so I'm gonna make this very concrete with some numbers of why it might be beneficial for you to put off retirement. And I don't mean it necessarily from the job you're at. Maybe it's another job or a whole nother career that you take on. But I'm gonna show you that maybe extending the idea of working a little bit longer might give you the opportunity to live more today, tomorrow, and for the next year. So we're going to talk about two brothers, Bo and Luke. If you're a fan of the Dukes of Hazzard, you know why I picked those two names. But they're twins. They're 45 years old, and they both have $150,000 in retirement savings right now. They're currently debt-free except for their house, and they have combined take-home income of $120,000. So between their income and their wife's income, what hits their bank account is $120,000 a year. Bo, we'll start with Luke. Luke wants to retire in 17 years at the age of 62. He decides, in order to be comfortable, he's going to invest 15% of his income. That looks like $1,500 a month. You can take that $1,500 a month and he's going to invest it. It's going to turn into $1.229 million, which is a good job. That's exciting. So on his 62nd birthday, he's going to leave work and he's going to start withdrawing 4% of that, which is $4,098. His Social Security benefits are going to be around $2,400, which gives him about $6,500 every single month for the rest of his life. I based that on the financial standard of withdrawing 4% from your nest egg. I based that number, the monthly number, on if you withdraw 4% from your nest egg, let's say you're making 5%, you won't actually touch it and it will last until you die. So that will get him $4,098, Social Security. I did a rough Social Security calculator, about $2,400 for a total of $6,500. That's roughly $7,800 a year. Not bad. He's doing okay, right? He's going to be able to live on that. He doesn't have a house payment at this point. He's had that paid off. Luke is doing okay. Now let's take his brother. Bo's obviously 45. He's a twin. He decides, though, he wants to work a little bit longer because he doesn't want to invest in as much money now. He's only going to do 10%. He's going to do $1,000 a month. And he's going to work longer. He's going to work 22 years, where Bo was only going to work 17 years. So on his 67th birthday, he retires, and in his nest egg is $1.583 million. So he's got about $300,000 more than his brother. That 4% will get him $5,300, and his Social Security benefits, because he waited till he was 67, will be $3,600. Again, I'm not giving you financial advice, so please don't take this as a financial advice. This is just how numbers might play out for you. So Bo will have $8,900, which puts him, near over $100,000 a year. Good job. Good job, Bo. Luke and Bo are both going to retire with dignity. They should be able to, pay their bills. They should be able to eat. They should be able to, live a pretty good life. Is it extravagant? No, it's probably not extravagant, but it's a good life. But this is where it's different. There's a $500 monthly difference between Bo and Luke's retirement. And for Bo, he's going to have an extra $132,000 to live life right now. That's $6,000 a year. So my question is, if you were in this scenario, if you were one of these two brothers and you had an extra $600 a month or $500 a month, $6,000 a year, what could you do with it? Could you take your wife to nicer dates? Could you, get yourself a massage once a month? Could you buy a nicer gym membership? Could you read the menu from left to right, which I heard is a level of financial stability where, when you're younger, you look at the prices on the right, you read from right to left and go, oh, I can afford these. And then you look and see what it actually says. Could you do that? Could you do the easier things? Could you go on slightly nicer vacations instead of staying in a 3-star hotel? You stay in a four-star hotel. Could you invest into your health? Could you spend money on, better supplements? Could you get a coach, a fitness coach? Could you get a life coach? Could you go to marriage therapy? What could you do for $132,000? Could your life be better from 45 to 67-year-old if you could just spend more money? What sucks that it comes down to money, but I guess it doesn't have to. What if instead of actually having $132,000, you took a job where it paid $500 less a month, but you really liked the job, that you loved the job, that it fulfilled you? I had an opportunity about a year ago to get promoted. I had earned the promotion. I took a test, I passed, I scored above some of the other people, but I decided for my life the way it was right now, I didn't want it. I lost out on a pay raise. Maybe I lost out on a little bit of, notoriety. I wouldn't be a chief. I'm just a captain, but it was okay because I really love my job. I really like doing what I'm doing, and it was worth passing it up. Now that might mean that I added a year onto the end of my working life because I didn't make as much money, but I'm okay with that, right? Because I could be that 48-year-old guy that I did CPR, and that's 3 years for me. And I want to live right now. Now I want to be very clear. I'm not giving you permission to go nuts. I'm not giving you permission to go spend $20,000 on a credit card for a Disney vacation. That is not what I'm saying to do. I think that would be extremely irresponsible to do something like that. You have to get out of debt, right? And I would say go all in for a year or two, knock that out so you're not at the place where you have your stress in your life. Because I do think it's really hard to enjoy yourself when you are living paycheck to paycheck and you just feel like at any moment, any financial problems is going to just wreck your life. That's really hard to do. So I'm not telling you to do that. So I'm saying, in your financial, like when you're a young man, you had zero money. Then you became a middle-aged man and you had negative money because you owed everybody money. Get to the point where you don't owe anybody money and then live a good life. Live a life that's worth living. Live a life that when you die, you look back and go, man, I'm glad I spent my money there. I'm glad I spent my time there. This might be where you are getting promoted. You are taking advantage of, moving up in rank and moving up in your job. But instead of taking $10,000 raise, what if you say, hey, instead of a $10,000 raise, why don't you give me a $5,000 raise and then 2 more weeks off? That's what I'm talking about. Living a life that lines up with your values so you can do it today, even if it means you have to put it off to the future. And maybe you're thinking right now, Danny, I hate my job. There's no way I would do this for a second longer than I could ever imagine. Good, don't. But just because you hate your job doesn't mean that you'll hate every job you've ever had. Maybe at 50, you decide to do a completely different career and do it for 20 years till 70. You can get a whole nother career. There could be something that, you've been watching other people do that career. You're like, man, I would love to do that. Go do it. Realizing that you're probably going to have to work because you're going to have to, pay that difference of whatever it costs to get there. Go work till you're 70. We're not designed to do nothing. Now, I don't think I'm not saying you have to work at a job, a factory job or digging ditches for your entire life, but go find something you love to do and then do it really well for a really long time. And I think you'll be fulfilled as long as you're living life for today and not keep putting it off for the future. I think it's important. Do the numbers. Figure out what that number is for you. Figure out what the cost of the next promotion is for you. Does it mean, I'm getting a promotion, but I'm not going to see my wife and kids as much? Well, maybe you make less money and you work longer so that right now you can see your kids. I don't know if it's exactly true, but someone said, you spend like 90% of your life, or maybe it was even higher, like 94% of your life with your kids from birth until 18. The next however many years until you die is only 4%. We were talking with my son, he's graduating next year and he might go to Chile for a couple months and he's just going to be gone. He's living in another country and that's going to start happening more and more. We don't know what's going to happen. So I'm going to spend every moment I can. I'm going to try to live a life right now because that's important. So if you've enjoyed this, I want you to go do something today that's awesome. Go earn your title of husband, father, and leader. And if you could, leave me a review. As always, this is the Earn Your Title Podcast, and my name is Danny Dumas, and I will talk to you later. Bye.